Welcome, nerds, to That Just Happened. This week's episode is President Signs of the Demon Hunter's Black Mirror. That was deep. All right, so a real quick preamble on what the hell this show is. This is a review show for lazy people. That's right. I review it when I get to it, and I get to it when I get to it because I'm a one-man show and I can't watch everything as soon as it happens. I've got a show to produce here, guys. So, that being said, this week we got to quite a bit of things. I honestly listened to a bunch more new music than I put in here. It just felt a little overwhelming trying to write about all of the new music that I listen to. So I chose some of the more standout bits. We have a track from a band called Deadlocked US. We have a track from the new masked band President, Signs of the Swarm, Demon Hunter, and Scars on Broadway are what made it into the music section for That Just Happened this week. And then the other stuff, we have a movie on Prime called The Vast of Night. We have Sinners. I finally got to watch Sinners. I'm super stoked to talk to you about that one. Black Mirror Season 7, also super stoked to talk to you about that, as well as Love, Death, and Robots Season 4. So without any further ado, let's talk about the new music tracks that I've listened to this week that you should as well, probably. First one is, again, a band called Deadlocked US. The name of the track is Ponderous. It is featuring Waste and Wretched Tongues, two other bands I've not heard of. I've not heard Deadlocked either. Presumably, though, Deadlocked US is named as such because there are other bands called Deadlocked that are not from the US, I guess. But technically, I guess you would call this grindcore, even though this is kind of exactly proof as to why subgenres by and large are just silly propositions, because this very much sounds like a lot of the deathcore that we've been listening to in this section of late. I mean, I guess I can see a bit of a difference if you're just going vocally, though the vocals are kind of the reason why I wanted to highlight this track as far as That Just Happened this week. It's because there's a comment on the video for this that has a timestamp, and it says those vocals sound like scraping two cinder blocks together. And I honestly can't disagree. That sounds so interesting. I don't know how. I've studied a bit as to the instrument that is the voice, and I understand, even if I can't make the sounds myself a lot of times, I understand how a lot of the vocal sounds are made, even into the more extreme side of things. But sometimes vocalists will come up with something like Alex Terrible's alligator roll, or the predator noises that what's his name from Canada Cap does, or just some of those things. It's like I have a basic understanding of how that might be happening, but how they get that kind of volume is beyond me. And this falls into that same category. So if for no other reason, even if you don't like extreme music, you should check this out just for anthropological purposes. But if you like extreme music, this is one of the better unsigned bands out there. I really dug this. There's so much variety. There's a lot of texture as far as the vocals go. Not a whole lot of dynamics in the instrumentation, but still pretty good. A lot of organizational dynamics, but not sonic dynamics. We don't have softer sections. We just have sections that have more staccato elements and sections that are much more fluid. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Go check out Deadlocked Ponderous, Deadlocked US Ponderous. It is up on YouTube. You can find the link in the description. Next up, we're talking about the new track from the new masked band President. Name of the track is Fearless. I need to come out the gate first and foremost. I was mistaken in my reaction video for the last track they put out, in the Name of the King, or the Name of the Father rather, because I thought they released two tracks up front. I, for whatever reason, thought I saw a listing for two different songs. I was mistaken. It was just Name of the Father. Now we finally have the second track. It's called Fearless. For all of the hope that I had from that first track, for them being possibly something even quasi-comparable to the weird and awesomeness that is Sleep Token, that was definitely squandered with this track. This is not even in the same arena as Sleep Token, let alone the same ballpark. This is radio nonsense. This is something that it will get lots of radio play, it will get a lot of attention. it is just not in the same echelons of talent that you find in the band Sleep Token. The dudes in Sleep Token are legitimately doing something invigorating and new and very, very different, which is hard to say in the current year. However, what President is doing is not only derivative of the media frenzy and all of the secrecy and stuff that Sleep Token has already established. And even then, Sleep Token kind of picked out elements of that from bands previously. They just did it in a fresh kind of way, but is still very reminiscent, I guess I could say, of bands like Slipknot and maybe not so much Kiss, because Kiss didn't really go for the mystery of the stuff. They just wore the elements. But the Residents, even, like, you don't know who the Residents are. For a long time you didn't know who the hell the guys in Slipknot were, and now you really don't know. I mean, they've been doxxed and stuff, and that's unfortunate, but most normies like me don't know who the guys in Sleep Token are. Not to say that the unmasking at the end of this video is a bad thing, but is also is unnecessary, is their sad attempt at changing the marketing strategy from what Sleep Token did to their own thing. I don't know. And there's also the contingency of people out there who are very much convinced. I don't know who the hell they think the vocalist actually is, but they're very much convinced that unmasking at the end of this video is not the actual vocalist that we've been listening to this whole time. I don't care. I don't know a lot of people in the heavy music scene that really care at this point, because it's subpar, it's mediocre. There's nothing invigorating about their sound. If there was something unique, if there was some sort of breath of fresh air in their delivery, in the sound that they're giving us, then we would care a little bit more about who these guys are. It being as it's fairly mediocre radio rock, this is definitely some butt rock action. They're gonna have a career, sure, but like, are they gonna go down in history as one of the biggest masked bands ever? Probably not. So I don't know. I'm super unintrigued by President at this point. The first track kind of brought up the intrigue. The second track totally squandered it. Let's move on. Signs of the Swarm have released a new track called Clouded Retinas from their upcoming record, which I have right here. Where the hell did it go? To Rid Myself of Truth, which is coming out August 22nd. This track is featuring Will Ramos from Lorna Shore, and it does not disappoint. Like, if you are into deathcore at all, Signs of the Swarm is one of the best examples of the genre right now. I would put them up in the same echelons as, say, Lorna Shore or even Slaughter to Prevail. Like, I feel like they are at that level. They might not be performing to those size crowds yet, but if they stick to it, I really think they've got it in them to go that far. And featuring Will on a track is always a bonus. Will is always a win. I think that kid really can do no wrong. I'm a super fan of Will Ramos, and this is just a great amalgamation of the two. So absolutely go check out the new track, Clouded Retinas from Signs of the Swarm. Demon Hunter has released a new track. This is another standalone track. This is their 7th standalone track since they released their last record in 22. The name of the song is Light Bands. Again, these guys seem to be steering a lot harder into that quote-unquote active rock sound. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, because active rock is kind of what has taken the place of what used to be known as hard rock or heavy metal. It's kind of the amalgamation of the two, but it's really just like the terrestrial radio billing of that. So if you have a rock radio station in your town, by and large, what they're selling you is what they're calling active rock behind the scenes. It's a silly moniker, but it kind of helps to differentiate, because it's not really the same metal band. Demon Hunter, from the last few singles that I've heard, I haven't listened to all 7 since they released the last record, but I did listen to a good chunk of the last record as well. It seems that they're just kind of leaning into that kind of hard rock, active rock kind of sound. Still quality stuff, but again, this is a genre that is super milquetoast and safe, because it's going to get them a career. They're going to go on tour with Doughtree probably, and I'm sure they already have. It sounds like I'm talking shit. I'm just kind of disappointed. Demon Hunter used to be easily one of my top 10 or top 5 even Christian metal bands. Like, they were just that damn good, and now they're in their older age, they're kind of softening up. It happens. It's a little sad, but whatever. Let's move on. Next up, we have the new track from Scars on Broadway. Darren Malankian from System of a Down, his other band, Scars on Broadway, put out this track, Killing Spree, again, off of their upcoming record, Addicted to the Violence, that will be out sometime later this year. I don't think I have a release date for it yet. Again, in his old age, Darren is losing his edge. You still got a lot of the signature Darren Malankian things here in the track. You got those breakneck tempo changes, not really any time signature changes, but tempo changes for sure. But like his vocal delivery is less manic, I guess you could say. If you listen to System of a Down, the last full proper record System of a Down released, Mesmerized I believe it was, Hypnotized, Mesmerized. The last record they released, he was like all over the place. It was probably because he was very coked up at the time, but still, like, you can be crazy and not be under the influence of drugs. I just feel, and even the last two tracks that System of a Down recorded, you get a little bit, but it's kind of toned down, but it's salvaged because you also have Serge on vocals, and even Serge's solo stuff, he's always very Serge, and is kind of a delivery, and what is the word I'm looking for? Excitement level? That's not really what I'm trying to say, but it's going to get the point across. It's energy level. That's what I was looking for. Why was that so hard to find? It is an energy level that you expect. I don't think Serge has ever really brought the energy down on his stuff. Outside of being intentional, like he'll bring it down for dynamic purposes, but he's not bringing it down because he's aging. More, he's moving less on stage because he's aging. Whereas I think Darren is kind of losing that mania that we know him for. So like vocally, you're not getting some of the crazier screams. There are plenty of parts in this song where he could have gone for why do they always send the poor level scream, and he just didn't. Like the lyrical subject matter even included, like I feel like he's just trying to be King Edgelord and doesn't know how to do it now that he's in his 50s. So like it's a little disappointing. It's still fun to listen to. Like I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad track. It's just not what you would expect from Darren if you're a fan of the rest of his career. But that's what we have for music from That Just Happened. Let's talk about other things. No concerts to speak of. We talked about the Of Sulfur show. We talked about, which was the Necro Gavacon show. And I don't think I've been to any other concerts recently. We will be going to see Mike Ness and, good Lord, I can't even think of the name of the band that Mike Ness plays for. Oh, I'm so dumb. Whatever. Yeah, somebody's going to make fun of me in the comments, I know. Brain farts. I mean, the ADHD, man, is strong with this one. But yeah, that's where we're going. That's for later, though. So movies. Vast of Night. We got some good, clean sci-fi horror over on Amazon Prime. And like I say that, and like that is kind of exactly, I think, what the director was going for with this movie. There's a couple of people who have gone on to do, because this movie's a couple years old at this point. There's a couple of people in there that have gone on to do other things that you might recognize them from, but by and large, it's an unrecognizable cast. You'll recognize the voice of the caller to the radio station because he's done some stuff. I'm pretty sure he was the voice of Batman in that Batman Unburied, the audio play that they did about a year and a half ago. But like, this is a small production budget. It's set in the 50s. It is that kind of good, clean, small town fun for a movie set in the 50s, like you would expect people from the 50s. There are elements that are really eerie. There are elements that like kind of have you on the edge of your seat, but you know it's going to be super safe. And then you get to the ending, which I'm going to try and not spoil this, but it definitely does not end the way that you think it's going to end. That part was a little shocking because it takes a little bit of a hard turn, but not anything that really is out of the realm of what could be expected. Just not exactly what you were expecting, I think. So definitely a recommend. This is a lot of fun. This is definitely something you can watch with the whole family. There's nothing really crazy here. There's no harsh language. There's no blood and violence and gore. There's no nakedness or anything like that. It's just some horror for people who maybe don't do horror so well. So that's pretty fun. Next, and it is streaming on Prime. It is a Prime original. Next, finally watched Sinners. And I would say don't believe the hype, but like there's so much hype going in two very opposite directions about this movie that you maybe don't believe either of them and both of them all at the same time, because they're both wrong, but they're also both right. What the hell am I talking about? So The hype is that this is just a good horror movie and that all of the political nonsense doesn't really factor in. That's not exactly true on either account, but it is still a pretty solid horror movie, and the social politics that do factor into this movie don't distract from the fact that it is a pretty solid horror movie. Is it one of the best vampire movies you're ever going to watch? No. Is it one of the best movies that's come out horror-wise from the last few years? I would put it up there in the top 10 from the last, I give it, over the last decade, this is probably one of the top 10 movies as far as horror is concerned that's come out in the last decade. Yes, I would say that for it's a pretty easy statement to make. The other hype train to not believe, but also kind of believe, is that this is just social politics masquerading as art, and this is just a black filmmaker who's blaming the white man for everything, and that's not true. That's even less true than the other version of the hype that we're kind of only half believing. Ryan Coogler is a very talented director. Ryan Coogler does really cool things. I'm a bit of a fan of Coogler's work. He's a solid director. He's a super nerd too. Dude is so incredibly nerdy about film stuff. It's so awesome to watch him just totally geek out and talk about his art. It's a beautiful thing. So to say that he's not making art here, I think is the most disingenuous statement you could possibly make about Ryan Coogler. Also, to say that he's letting his personal politics, because yes, there is an element of personal politics in here. It's not flavoring the overall story enough for it to make any kind of difference. The original vampires in this story are white people. Yes. However, they are not the only vampires in this story. They're just the ones that start the situation. They're not, and it's, the race thing is only a factor with the racist characters in the show who are tertiary at best. So for anyone to get hung up on the idea that Coogler is trying to push some sort of race narrative with this movie, those people are looking for something to be mad at, because there's not much there for them to grasp onto. They're definitely making what's the saying? Grasping for splinters to make a splint for their broken egos. It's just a fun movie. Like there's a lot to enjoy here. There's a fair amount of suspension of disbelief as there would be with a vampire movie, but like things that feel incorrect even with vampire lore, but they're also relatively minor and not big enough to really pull you out. So you kind of just look past them, but I don't know, I had a lot of fun. I think it's definitely worth seeing. If you can catch it in theaters on like a discount theater, that's 100% the way to see this, because seeing this on a big screen is definitely the way to go. It's very immersive. Props to Michael B. Jordan for legitimately pulling off two very separate characters. I really, really dig what he did with that. And it didn't even take a whole lot for him to differentiate those two characters, but what he did was enough that they feel like they could be two different actors. It's really cool. So that's what we got for Sinners. Go watch it. It's great. Great might be strong, but still. Black Mirror Season 7. Let's do this. Black Mirror Season 7 is 6 episodes long. All 6 of those episodes are, at the very least, good Black Mirror episodes. One of those episodes is what's killing it. Aside from that one episode, the other 5 episodes are great Black Mirror episodes. There are going to be issues here and there. Probably the biggest standout, and we've already technically talked about this one, is the first episode. Common People is what it's called. I think this is quintessential Black Mirror. This is easily, when you think of Black Mirror and like the dark future that it presents to us, the possible dark future that we could be finding ourselves in and not too far from now. This is a prime example of the great ways that Charlie Brooker does that, because we're already kind of there in a lot of ways. I mean, not to the point. So the premise for it is one of the main characters gets a TBI. She has really severe brain trauma. And there's this new company that can reconstruct brains, but they have to be connected to their cloud system. And so there's a lot of things. It basically works similar to somewhere between a streaming service and cell phone service. So they have to be certain geographical locations because that's where they get the cell service effectively. But then also like they can control things in the implant, that the brain recreation, in a similar way as a streaming service. So you combine those two things, and what are we getting a lot of in streaming services these days is ads. So I really feel like Charlie just kind of took that to its logical extension from where we're at today. We get into a point where we can do such things. You're gonna get some predatory companies that do some garbage like this, and like, it's so depressing because you know it's gonna happen. Like, that's when Charlie Brooker, I think, really shines through with the Black Mirror stuff, is when he gets to that point of, oh my God, we're already on the track to getting to, like the social points, the episode from a couple seasons ago where the girl is doing great because she has all these social points, and then something really minor happens and that just snowballs, and then she's homeless and gross and whatever. Like, that is already happening in a lot of ways as well. And now he's gone even further into the dark future and shown us what the hell can happen. Yeah, it's great. Another standout episode here was Eulogy, episode 5. Not just because Paul Giamatti is always a win, but Paul Giamatti is always a win. This is another prime example of like just a logical extension of where we are with tech. Like, it's science fiction, but it's not even, it's like post-cyberpunk, however you quantify that, because cyberpunk in my mind is a lot of times like the like seedy, rusty future where things aren't necessarily going super well, but like it's a logical, you can see us getting to that point in 15, 20, 30 years. This is not that far out even. This is a science fiction, sci-fi future that is 5-10 years out. Just the way that Paul Giamatti interacts with the AI, the way they built the AI, the whole point of it is he's trying to find good memories of a former girlfriend who they ended things rather poorly, but they had a pretty great relationship, it seemed. And there's an AI that's helping him try and get through these memories to find a good one so that he can contribute to her eulogy. Because she has passed, and it kind of unravels from there. And this one's not really dark. This is a potential good use of technology that we could be finding ourselves in, like I said, about 5 to 10 years. I think that this is just again, this is Charlie just really stretching those muscles out and showing us how it's done. This is where the Twilight Zone would be today if they had continued making it back from the 50s all the way up till now. It would have evolved into the Black Mirror. That's what we have here. It's not like season 6. Season 6 was not that great. There was one good episode of season 6. In this one, there's one bad episode for season 7. The rest of them are great. And then Bete Noir is another one. This one that was super strong all the way through. Like, it's a bit of a fantastical leap in technology to get to where this episode basically exists for the majority. And then once you kind of get the reveal of the technology and what's going on and why this Mandela effect thing is just following our main character around so hardcore, once you finally understand the technology that's there and she kind of explains things to you, the way it ends is really disappointing. Like, this could have been an all-time great episode. I think this is just a solid episode for the season because the ending was kind of squandered. What else? I have notes. I swear I have notes. Oh, and then we'll talk about Hotel Reverie again ever so briefly because we did talk about it in the last That Just Happened. But Hotel Reverie is episode 3. And there, all right, so I've kind of crystallized my thoughts a little bit on this since we last spoke about it, and then I also just referenced it in the news show because it was our suggestion for the week. But episode 3, Hotel Reverie. So Charlie, by and large, and in this episode I think is the exception, but by and large, can see what we have for technology today and go, all right, so here's a really interesting, logical, potential future for this technology. And here is a very negative way that it's probably going to be used, because he understands human nature to a degree. I don't think most people understand human nature. So that's I think where Charlie shines. He also can see the potential good things, which the Eulogy episode exemplifies. This episode starts in a place where we're just going to completely disregard the logic of technology that currently exists, because theoretically we could get to a similar future to use a technology that would be in broad strokes the same as what he's showing us in this episode. But there is the weird element of consciousness, which, yes, I know we could get into a long philosophical conversation about consciousness and how we don't actually know what consciousness is and how are we going to describe consciousness and blah, 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 blah. That's not what we're talking about. What we do know about consciousness is that our consciousness exists between our ears. As far as we understand it, it cannot be removed from our physical being. There are, again, the crazy philosophical discussions we can have about astral projection, and is that really your consciousness leaving your body, and so on and so forth. I don't think that is the way Booker is looking at this, or Booker? I can't remember. I really think that he was trying to shoehorn in some sort of social political message into this, and didn't really care about the technology. He was using the technology as an excuse to do the thing. Because if you're connected to a computer, you're interfacing with a computer, albeit through your brain, which is how they have this set up. But they have one of the primary plot devices is this actress's consciousness gets stuck in this computer while it's stuck on a reboot cycle, and months and months and months pass inside of this simulation, kind of like a holodeck situation, but it exists in your brain and not in the real world. So it's this, she gets stuck in this simulation of a world famous black and white movie in the world that they've created, right? So first and foremost, the logic breaks down because consciousness, right? She's not inside the computer. That's not how that works. If the computer reboots, she wakes up because the link has been severed. It's not because she's stuck in the computer. It's not how that goes. I mean, again, this is fantasy. This is science fiction. So yes, I understand that argument. However, if we're trying to extrapolate logic from currently existing technology to potential future technology, there's no logical way that could be a thing. Second, inside of any simulation, AI or otherwise, the master computer, effectively, the computer that creates the thing, has supreme control, effectively. So there's no logical reason, again, extrapolating from what we know of technology today into this potential future technology, there's no reason to believe that they would not have full control over where they were in the movie. So when she flubs a line and they say, oh, whatever, just continue, we don't want to have to restart it. You don't have to restart the whole thing. You can take it back 30 seconds and give her the correct line. Like, the whole premise that they've only got 2 hours to do the thing, and that's all they're going to need because of the way this plays out. Like that, there's so much broken logic there. That's really what was pulling me out. Every 10 seconds, they're making references to things that, like, if we get to this point in the technology, that is not going to be the way it works, because that's not the way it works now. We can do the things they're trying to do in this episode of the show now, for all intents and purposes. Like, it doesn't make sense. There's too much that just is not tracking as far as what we know of technology. So that is the biggest thing. I don't give a shit about the lesbian element. Like, sure, let's do a new version of an old movie, and well, I don't know, I guess we've had conversations about that as well, but that takes a backseat to the content. So if the content overall is good, that's not an issue. The content overall is bad. The content is the issue, not the relationship. So, I mean, we can have the regendering and the race swapping conversation another time. This is not that. This is not dependent on the fact that they have a lesbian. Now, had they done an actually existing movie and tried to gender and or race swap somebody that way, that would have been a different conversation to have. But only ever so slightly, because the biggest issue is the illogical extension of technology. So we've talked enough about the 7th season of Black Mirror. Let's move into the 4th season of Love, Death, and Robots, because I also have watched that. And if you watch no other episode besides this, episode 7 is called The Screaming of the Tyrannosaur. That is the best example of why you love Love, Death, and Robots. That episode is just everything that you've come to expect out of like the good episodes of this, because they're kind of all over the place every season, which is by design. The 2 cat episodes also, I can't remember the episode numbers because I didn't write them down, but there are 2 cat episodes, and he creeps, or because he creeps or something like that. I think it's the very last episode is awesome. I love it. But also Other Large Things, I think is what the other cat episode is called. I think it might be episode like 4 or something, 4 or 5. Fantastic. Freaking fantastic. I love it. If you have ever owned a cat in your life, then you know exactly. That is what my cat is thinking. That is exactly how my cat thinks. Yes, 100%. Don't have a cat these days. I have a dog who thinks he's a cat, but that's a whole other story. Yeah, I cannot speak highly enough of this episode, of this season. Episode 4, The 400 Boys, is also a great example of why this show is kind of near and dear to my heart, but it's also a super unique unto itself. So like, the Tyrannosaur episode is indicative, or is very similar to other episodes we've got previously in this series. The episode 4 here, 400 Boys, is super unique. It doesn't remind you of anything else that has happened in the series. There's another episode, I think it's like episode 3, the lady who calls her, she's like the arachnid or whatever, and she gets the little creature from the people. That one is very reminiscent of one of the episodes in season 2 that I loved. That episode is also freaking fantastic. But episode 4 here feels like an anime in a lot of ways. Feels kind of like an American anime, because that art style is pretty reminiscent of like cartoons back in the day on Cartoon Network. This style is kind of Dexter's Laboratory kind of stuff, but it's darker, obviously. And there's also the CG element that is hidden really, really well inside of the art style. Like, you don't really feel the CG until the last sequence where they're fighting the 400 boys effectively. It's just really damn cool. And it's also one of the shorter episodes, which I found incredibly interesting, because they were able to portray so much information and so much story in like 8 minutes. And maybe it was 12 minutes, something along those lines. Like, that's incredibly impressive to me. So yeah, the season 4 Love, Death, and the Robots, you don't be surprised if it is a recommendation in the future on the regular show, because I loved it. It's really, really good. But that, nerds, is where we're going to be shifting from what just happened to things that are happening soon. Not Bad Religion. Goodness. Oh, Mike-ness. Yeah, I'm going to see a punk rock show. I haven't been to a punk rock show in a little while, like a proper punk rock show. Like, I've been to hardcore shows and stuff fairly recently, but like a proper punk rock show. At a venue I haven't been to in a long time either, so I'm super excited about that. And then just got tickets, but that's a couple of months out now, for Mudvayne and Static X. And then I'm sure there's other things going on. As far as new releases go, I really don't know what's on the horizon offhand. I didn't write anything down. I need to start doing a little bit more preparation for the Happening Soon section, because I can't. So yeah, we'll be more prepared in future episodes, I think, for Happening Soon. And pardon the voice, I've been sick for the last week or so. Since we last spoke, I got a little bit sick, like the following day. and I'm still dealing with it. But yeah, I think that's all we got as far as going forward. So what happened for you this week? Did you interact with any art that you wanted to talk about, or that you think I should probably check out? Music, movies, TV shows that maybe I'm unaware of, or something along those lines. Did you go see something live? I think that's the biggest thing that I'm really excited once this show starts to really grow a little bit, is talking to people about live experiences, because that is one of the most difficult forms of entertainment, is doing it live. And so when you find someone that can do it well, you want to talk about it, you want to share it with the world so that it can be embraced and enjoyed by other people. So that's where I want this to go. But that's not where we're at yet, so we're going to cut it off there. Thank you very much, nerds, for joining me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the show with everyone you know, because that's the only way that this grows. So if everyone, grandma, whatever, the guy next door, let them know, hey, I watched this review show called That Just Happened, and the guy's kind of goofy, but, it's fun to talk about things. So I appreciate you, nerds. We'll see you in the next one. Before we go, always remember that if it's genuinely nerdy, it's probably here, and that just happened.